Hello and welcome to Senior Solutions, where we bring you topics impacting seniors and their families. I'm your host, Mindy Felinton. Have you ever known someone who was just overwhelmed with all the paperwork and having to pay bills and they just didn't know what to do? Well, my guest today is Leah Nichaman with Everyday Money Management, and she's here to tell us about how to handle that situation. Welcome, Leah, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
What exactly is a daily money manager?
Well, I like to say that daily money management is the most important job that nobody ever heard of. I mean, really, who knew what a daily money manager is? And when I think about it, it's a combination of a bookkeeper, an organizer, and a personal assistant. So a daily money manager helps people with their paperwork, specifically their financial paperwork.
And I guess really anybody could use your services, not just seniors.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It sounds like, as you're talking about it, it's something that I, too, could benefit from in our busy lives that we have.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, particularly who are maybe sandwich generation, dealing with mom or dad and their children, can really use your services as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Tell me a little bit about what the type of services are that you provide.
A daily money manager deals with any of the paper or even the emails that come into your home that have to do with your money. So we'll deal with your mail, we'll pay your bills, we help you with your insurance claims, we help you track your income and expenses, develop a budget, help you get organized at tax time. Those are the main things that we focus on.
And are there things that you cannot do as a daily money manager?
Well, absolutely. We're not attorneys or financial planners. We can't offer any type of legal advice, and we can't offer any type of financial planning type advice. People ask us all the time, what should I do with my money? And that's not the type of money manager that we are. We help people keep it organized, but we don't tell them how to invest. So those are the main things that we don't really do. We also don't clean out your closet or your garage. We're not that type of organizer either, but we certainly know people who do that type of thing, and so we would refer out for that.
And you refer people to financial planners, et cetera, as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how many daily money managers are there in this geographical area?
Well, in the Metro D.C. area, we're very fortunate. There are about 60 of us who are members of the American Association of Daily Money Managers, which is our professional organization. And I'm sure there are probably more than those who are members. But I would like to say that, especially for those who are serving seniors, there probably aren't enough of us. Mm-hmm. There are so many people who need this help, both seniors and people along the age spectrum, that we could really use more daily money managers in our area.
And how does one find a daily money manager to work with?
Well, we don't advertise in the paper really usually or on TV or the radio, which is one reason why people don't really know much about daily money managers. But we do a lot of networking with professionals. And so what I usually advise people to do is to check with their professionals and their friends and their family. Ask your lawyer, ask your CPA, ask your financial advisor if they know somebody who does this type of work in the home. You can also go to the website of the American Association of Daily Money Managers. We have a great Find a DMM tool. A DMM, by the way, is the abbreviation for Daily Money Manager.
Got it.
And so you can look it up by state or by zip code, and you can find names and contact information for people in your area. And so that's the way that you would access the group of us who are in this area doing this type of work.
And what does it take to become a member of that association? What are the requirements?
Well, daily money management is not a regulated field. We don't have licensure, but we do have something that is a certification program. So anyone can become a member of the association, but you need to have worked several years in the profession and passed a fairly rigorous exam in order to get certification. And that usually comes a little ways into a person's career as a daily money manager.
What does the exam entail?
You would be surprised. Daily money managers deal with so many different aspects of a person's financial life. We touch on taxes. We might touch on guardianship. We might touch on employment law, because many seniors are employers. They're household employers employing caregivers in their home.
Right.
We deal with information about budgets, information about bill paying, and as you know, there's a million different ways to pay your bills nowadays too. It's not just paper, a bill comes to your house, you write out a check and you put it in the mail.
Yes.
There are some people who still do it that way, but by and large, companies are kind of forcing us into online bill pay and direct debits and all sorts of other electronic ways of paying bills. So bill paying has actually become quite a bit more complicated. So there's questions on the exam that have to do with that as well.
Sounds quite rigorous.
Yeah, it's hard to prepare for because there's just so many different aspects of people's financial lives that you would need to study.
Right.
But we also need to know about Medicare and Social Security too, because we are, many of us are serving seniors, and this is really an important aspect of their lives and an important aspect of their financial lives in particular.
What are some of the tips that you would suggest that people take into consideration when looking to hire a daily money manager, DMM?
DMM. The most important thing is to identify candidates through the network of your family and your friends and your professionals, as I mentioned. But once you get somebody on the phone, you want to try to ask some key questions. Ask about how the daily money manager bills for their time. Most daily money managers charge hourly, and many of us may charge a travel fee as well, because we know in the Metro DC area it takes forever to get anywhere because of the traffic. And so you want to ask about those practical issues. But in addition to that, you want to find out if they have an initial visit. Most of us will offer a free initial visit, and that's really important because that gives you, the client, a chance to meet us, to see what we're like, to get a feel for us. And then it gives us a chance to see your stuff, to see your piles. And sometimes people are quite reluctant to have us come over and see their piles, but their piles is our specialty. Mm-hmm. That's our job, is to help you get rid of, make piles become files.
Oh, I love that.
It's true.
That's a great expression.
Yeah.
And I can't relate at all.
I can come to your house, Mindy, anytime.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I have a couple piles sitting around. So what are the types of questions that I would be asking in hiring a daily money manager for myself and or my mom, for example?
Well, you want to ask how it works, and do we come to your home, and how we operate, and how long it will take. And there are a couple questions that people don't usually ask that I wish they would.
For example?
Here are the two questions that I really think people should ask. They should ask about insurance. People rarely ask me this question, and so I offer the information because it's important that the daily money manager be insured. Mm-hmm. And the type of insurance that it's important for them to have is professional liability insurance, because while most daily money managers, the vast majority, I would hazard, are honest and are doing the best they can for their client, we're all human, and sometimes we make mistakes. And the idea is that if you have this professional liability insurance, if you make a mistake that turns out to be costly for the client, then this pot of money from the insurance company will help to make the client whole and will also help to preserve the daily money manager's business. So professional liability insurance is really important to have. And then if the daily money management company has employees, you also want to make sure that those employees are bonded. That's an important type of insurance as well. So people don't usually ask about insurance. I think they should. The other thing that I think people should ask about is, how will you keep my information confidential? Now, we pledge, of course, to keep the client's information confidential, but how exactly are you going to do that? So sometimes we have our client's paperwork in our possession, in our office, in transit in our car. We may have our client's information on our laptops. And so it's important to ask the daily money manager to spell out, how do you go about safeguarding my key information?
How do you do that?
Well, in our business, obviously actual paper is kept under lock and key at all times, except for when we're using it. We don't leave things in the car when we're in transit. And when it comes to your digital information, we utilize sort of the state-of-the-art as best we can, multiple levels of security on our laptops, security on the data set, security on specific files, and then even sometimes passwords on specific data within, like a social security number within a specific file. So we do our very best to make sure that nobody can hack in
Yeah.
to the information.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've got it pretty well covered there.
Absolutely.
You've covered all levels.
I need to sleep at night, and so that's the computer security is really important to me.
Yeah. Well, I get that. How much will it cost if someone wanted to work with a daily manager? Can you give us some idea?
Absolutely. Across the country, of course, it varies by geographic region.
Sure.
But in our area, knowing DC, I would say that the daily money managers are charging anywhere from maybe $60 to $100 an hour. And of course, as I said, some people are charging for travel as well. And so usually people ask, well, how long will it take? Well, that really depends a lot on the specific client and how much of a cleanup they have.
How
big are the piles? Exactly.
Yeah. Is it that or is it that?
And sometimes, I am never interested in cleaning up things that don't necessarily need to be cleaned up just for the sake of doing it. So if we have lots of piles and we've identified that this is from, the year 2000, but you want to keep it, or you don't even want us to even spend the time and the money to look through it, we'll just throw it all in a box and we'll label it 2000, and we'll really focus our energy on cleaning up the things that are in the current year or maybe the year before, and certainly just things that need to be kept for tax to support your tax return. So how long will it take? The cleanup could be several hours, but usually when we're working with a client, the average amount of time, a senior client, we might see them twice a month and maybe an hour and a half at the visit, and sometimes there's a little bit of work we might do back in our offices. So, anywhere from 3 to 6 hours a month.
Okay. And if a person can't afford that much, what would they do?
Well, we are very fortunate to live in Montgomery County, and if a person really can't afford the market rate for a daily money manager, many daily money managers will slide the scale, and we have a few clients who are on a sliding scale, and so that's a wonderful service that daily money managers provide. But if people really want to be able to get the service for free, the Senior Connection of Montgomery County, which they do transportation, they do grocery shopping, and now just recently, this past year, they've added bill paying.
Right.
And so we established the AARP Foundation's bill payer program, and we recruit volunteers from the community to be the bill payers, and daily money managers, myself included, we train those volunteers. And we support those volunteers. And so people who have, I believe it's assets not exceeding, for a single person, around $45,000, and income, annual income, also not exceeding $45,000, can qualify. And they have to be at least 62, I believe, for the Senior Connection. They can qualify to receive these services for free.
Wonderful.
And it may not be quite as comprehensive as what a professional daily money manager would do, but it covers the bases. They'll make sure that the bills are paid and that the files are maintained, and that's really the critical piece.
Sure. How wonderful and fortunate we are to live in a community that has that available to our seniors who may not have the ability to afford that type of service. And if a person hires a daily money manager, do they still need to have a financial planner and an accountant?
They need to have all those things unless they're doing their taxes and their financial planning by themselves. By and large, by the time people get to be in their senior years, they are usually having an accountant do their taxes, which is a wonderful thing. Some people are still doing their own sort of management of their investments on their own. They don't require a financial planner, but those are not things that we do, so we are very happy to have this team of people. I like working on a team, and the team usually would include the client, their family member or members, their attorney, their accountant, and their financial planner, and maybe a social worker in some cases. So that's a wonderful group of people to help support a senior.
Great. Well, we're going to have to take a short break right now, and when we come back, we'll follow up on that. And we'll be right back.
The pain will not control us. It will never break us, define us, or keep us still. Because arthritis can't beat us if we beat it first. In the fight against arthritis, you need a weapon. What's yours? Visit the Arthritis Foundation at fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back to Senior Solutions, where we bring you topics impacting seniors and their families. I'm your host, Mindy Felinton, and I'm joined today by Leah Nichaman, and we were talking about the daily money management services that she provides. And we're going to actually now kind of segue into what the value is that a daily money manager brings to people.
Yes. Well, we talked a little bit about the price, so the next logical thing is to find out, what is the value. And the value, of course, on the face of it is that if a person is overdrawing their account, paying their bills late, and incurring all these fees, well, right away, the daily money manager helps to save money. We have a lovely client, a man who's probably in his mid-80s, a gentleman who I believe before we started with him was spending close to $100 a month just in fees and finance charges because he wasn't paying close attention and he wasn't able to also remember that if he had checked something or not. So now that we're involved, we don't have that situation anymore, so hopefully we're saving him a lot of money. But that savings, that value is really nothing compared to the value that you get emotionally, that the person who's using this service and their family gets emotionally. When we start to work with somebody after a little while, the stress related to their bills and to their paperwork, it just melts away. And people say to us, I don't know what I did without you. I'm so glad you're here. You're so efficient. I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? A lot of what we do is liaison work between the client and their papers and the client and their professionals. We're helping to facilitate communication. And so that's a huge value that people get.
Yeah, I know you and I had worked together on a situation for my client, your client, that it was wonderful to know that you were there to be able to help us muddle through the messes.
Yes, for the professional, the notion that somebody is there, and there means in the home with the paperwork and with the information and with the client, is tremendous because we can bring that information out, organize it, and provide it to that professional.
Yes, I can attest to that, for sure.
And tax accountants in particular are so happy because we provide a very organized tax package. And so that's also another thing. I have a client who, her son told me that this was the first time in 20 years, this past year, that they filed her taxes on time instead of taking the extension because we had been tracking the whole year before. And so it was easy. Tax time is really easy if you stay on top of the tracking all year long. So that's some of the value. We also have the concept of being a friendly visitor, being another set of eyes and ears, especially if the family member lives far away. Yes. Yeah, or if the client has no one. So I have a client who really has no one in terms of family. And so when I came to visit her, this was already several years ago, she's living in a facility, but she just did not look right to me. And I'm not a medical professional, but I could tell that there was something not quite right. And so I don't think that she would have said something herself, but I immediately went down to the nurse, in the health room and said, I just don't think my client looks right today. And sure enough, she was ill and she needed to go to the hospital, and now she's fine. But so having that set of eyes and ears to be another person in the home, looking out for the welfare of your relative is a wonderful benefit for
that's
family
truly
members.
Invaluable.
Yeah.
And how fortunate and what a great adjunct to what you do, which is not really in your job description.
Not exactly. And we've done things that are not in our job description. We try not to stray too much into territory that's not financially oriented, but I have a client whose husband passed away. We deal with a lot of issues surrounding death and death of a spouse, and she was very, very grief-stricken. The social worker told me that this was traumatic grief, and it took a really long time to come to terms with it, but when she was ready, then I was there with the catalog for the urn. This man had been cremated, and she just could not bring herself to deal with his cremains. And gently, when it was time, I helped her choose the urn. I made sure that the urn got delivered to the place where they needed to do what they needed to do, and then I made sure that it got to the cemetery so that they could have a service. So those kinds of things are not exactly financial. I mean, there was a financial transaction in it, but it was all the stuff around that financial transaction that I was also able to help with.
What great peace of mind.
Yeah. I have one other story I want to tell.
Yes,
that
please.
has to do with end of life. We had a client who had a terminal illness, and she had some relatives, but they lived far away. And she very much wanted to tie up loose ends. She didn't want anybody to have to worry about her paperwork or sift through things when she was gone, which is a wonderful thing. I wish everybody would do that for their relatives who are left.
Yes.
And so the job we did was not a hard job at all. We just organized her files. We threw away stuff that she didn't need, and we put together a very small plastic box for her executor of the things that he would need when she was gone. And it gave her a huge sense of peace of mind that piece, the paperwork piece, was all organized and ready to go. So
that's the kind of client I love to work with.
I'm
too.
sure.
And on occasion we get those, but
Yes.
more often it's the piles.
Yeah.
It just came to my mind when you were talking about what you were doing in this last situation with your client, about have you ever found anything going through people's files that were intriguing or valuable or something exciting you want to tell us about?
Well, nothing historical that belongs in a museum, but we did actually do a job where the father had passed away, and the son hired us to come into his home, which hadn't been sold yet, to look through old papers just to be sure that there wasn't any stock certificates floating around or old insurance policies that they didn't know about. And so we started going through the paper. And after a little while, we started finding money. Crisp 20s, 50s, 10s, but tucked into the Pepco bill, tucked into a magazine. So we started shaking things out. We opened every single envelope, and by the time we were done with that clean out, we had found $2,400
Wow.
in cash.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. Well,
So,
or under the mattress or in the freezer.
exactly.
I know my grandparents I don't even think they had a bank account. Money was stashed around the
Really?
house. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was that mentality,
Yeah.
that immigrant.
Yes.
So,
Well, there is one other thing that has to do with bank accounts. Many seniors, those who are in the 80s and 90s, have a lot of bank accounts. These are people who went through the bank crash in the 30s, and they don't want all their eggs in one basket, which is completely understandable. But when it comes time to settle an estate, as you know, that's a lot of financial institutions to deal with. So many times when we're working with a client, we will encourage, not everybody will do it, but we will encourage consolidation and facilitate consolidation of accounts. If they want their money to be diversified, they can still diversify within their broker, their investment company,
Right.
et cetera. There's plenty of ways to do that. But just banks, you don't need 10 banks. You could probably have 2, and that would be just fine.
Yeah.
And so we do encourage and facilitate that process, again, to help make it easier for the executor of the estate.
well, I think a lot of people are resistant because of the mentality
Yeah.
from what you're
It's
sharing. But
understandable.
I'm living a nightmare right now myself in my practice for a particular guardianship where I actually am now the guardian, which I generally don't like to do. But this woman has, to our knowledge thus far, 31 accounts.
That's a lot.
31
That's
accounts.
a lot to manage.
And papers that weren't opened. So when you're talking about consolidating, you bet. They are getting consolidated. It is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to also just mention the sort of the last thing that I consider to be the thing of the greatest value,
Yes.
really, when
Yes.
it comes to seniors, is that we protect our clients against financial exploitation and fraud. We always have our eyes open. We are reading statements. We are reading fine print. We are making calls to find out what is this mystery transaction on your credit card, following up all those things to make sure that nobody is stealing from our clients. And in fact, I had a client who somebody was making phone transactions on his checking account and paying for things that were not his.
how do they even do that?
I don't know how this was a few years ago. Maybe things have tightened up. But we went he lost about $1,500, but the bank made him whole because we went right away and said these are not his transactions. But there was lots of paperwork to do, of course, and so he needed me to help him do that, get that paperwork completed as to what it was that was taken, et cetera. And we closed those accounts and opened new ones, et cetera. It's just a big hassle. As anyone who's had their identity stolen knows, these are huge hassles to deal with. And so our job, the Daily Money Manager's job, is to deal with that hassle, the paperwork hassle.
Yeah, invaluable, again. And of course, we had a show on senior scams, and the prevalence of it is just tremendous, particularly in the senior arena.
Seniors are a huge bullseye for scammers because they have resources, their money is there, and they are not able to pay close attention sometimes, and so to protect themselves against it, they're very vulnerable. So I take that part of our mission extremely seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and as Denise Gambrell, who is with the Adult Protective Services, pointed out, the seniors are self-identified.
Yeah.
You know, they can just, the predators can just sort of hang out at places that I won't mention that are geared towards accommodating seniors.
Absolutely.
So they're easily identified. How often do you usually see your clients?
So for a client that we're doing bill paying for, because bill paying is time sensitive, it's approximately twice a month. Sometimes if we get things really organized, and we've also automated some of the bills so that they're directly debited, like utility bills and things like that, it might be every 3 weeks or even every 4 weeks. For clients that we aren't doing bill paying for, we're doing more paper organization and that type of thing, it might be less frequent. It really depends on the client's needs, their wants, and their budget.
And how does one get started with a Daily Money Manager?
Well, you start by contacting the Daily Money Manager, having that initial meeting, getting a feel for that person. After that, checking their references. I know it seems crazy. Nobody thinks that a company would give references that are bad, and we never do, of course. But you can get a lot of information from those references that's not that has to do with how that Daily Money Manager does their job. So I really encourage people to check references. And then once the client has decided, okay, I'd like to start working with you, we just start to set a schedule and we just start the work. And it develops sort of organically between the Daily Money Manager and the client as to which things the client still can do and wants to do and which things the Daily Money Manager is going to do. We never, ever, ever go in and say, give me your checkbook, now I'm going to be in control of this checkbook. We are not in control. The client is always in control. We're the helper. We're the assistant. We're the safety net. That's our job. And so we take our cue from the client in terms of how we're going to work together.
So they don't have to think, oh my gosh, they're going to come in here and take control and I'm going to have to give up signing my checks.
You don't have to give up anything. You really don't.
Well, I'm sure that gives people a lot of peace of mind because I know the people with whom I'm dealing, the generation, a lot of them are concerned about giving up control.
Absolutely.
So, Leah, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, they can call me, 301-801-2294, or they can go to our website, which is www.everydaymoneymanagement.com. All those words just spelled out, Everyday Money Management.
Well, I think this was really helpful for people to understand what it is that a Daily Money Manager does and how much value you can add to their lives. And I appreciate your being here today.
Thank you very much, Mindy.
Thank you. And if you have an idea that you would like to see on the program or would like to get in touch with me, please feel free to email me at seniorsolutionsTV@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.